Hello my friend, I've been using Sony A6500 for about 1 year, so I think that now it is a good time to make a proper long-term review of A6500 before my A7 Mark III comes, to sum up the things that I like about the A6500 and also the things that I wish that were done differently on this camera, to find out whether the A6500 is still worth the money in mid-2018, and also to tell you how I intend to use it as B camera for my new channel once the A7 Mark III arrives. Probably the biggest highlights and the reasons why people buy A6500 are the image quality and the autofocus. In these two categories, Sony A6500 excels. It is of course APS-C camera, it uses 24 megapixel sensor, and I generally like the image quality a lot. 24 megapixels is in my opinion still the perfect resolution for hybrid camera. The sharpness of the pictures that this sensor provides is more than sufficient. The file size is not that big that it would slow down your workflow. It also allows A6500 to shoot full sensor readout 6K video, which is being downscaled to 4K. So the video quality in terms of the sharpness is still the best in class. It can also shoot very nice slow motion in 120 frames per second with some crop, which is very useful for B-roll and it gives you more creative options. The dynamic range is generally very good as well. The amount of shadows and highlights that the sensor captures gives you a lot of flexibility in post. In terms of the ISO performance, you can get very clean stills and video up to ISO 1600. ISO 3200 is still very usable in my opinion, although some noise starts to be visible here. ISO 6400 and above is more or less usable in case that you need to get a shot for your vlog or something like that, but the image quality is not that great in that case. Overall, I am very happy about the image quality of A6500. I think that I've managed to take a lot of nice shots with A6500 in terms of image quality. Sony is often criticized for the color reproduction. I personally haven't found this to be a problem. I shoot RAW and I edit the pictures in post, although I usually only change global parameters. Regarding the video, I shoot in picture profile 8 with gamma changed to Cine 4. I have made a whole video about that. If you want to use the footage out of the camera, I recommend taking a look at the picture profiles. Picture profile 4 is the best for out of camera colors in my opinion. Regarding the autofocus, the speed and accuracy is great. I have no complaints about that. It works well in all modes and it is quite good in predicting where to focus. It uses both phase detection points and contrast detection points, so the reliability is very good as well. Some users are saying that the autofocus looks unnatural because it is too fast or too jumpy. In that case, I recommend changing the autofocus track sense to standard and autofocus drive speed to normal or slow, and that should make the autofocus look more natural. A6500 is the first Sony APS-C camera to feature in-body image stabilization, and it definitely helps if you are using lenses without image stabilization. It can also work together with stabilized lenses, and the stabilization effect is quite good, although it is nowhere near the Panasonic in-body image stabilization. It is good for panning and holding the camera still, and it also helps with walking, but the smoothness is not that great here. Regarding the build quality, A6500 is very well built. It uses magnesium frame. The material is high quality in my opinion. It feels like a premium product, so I have no complaints there. It has some degree of weather sealing. It is dust and moisture resistant. I have used it in very light rain or snow, but I probably wouldn't use it in heavy rain unless necessary. The handling of A6500 is probably as good as it can be considering the size. It actually has fairly good grip in my opinion. There are two dials for the aperture and shutter speed. Two custom buttons on the top of the camera are very useful as well, so I can't really say that the handling is the best part of this camera, but considering the size, it is actually quite good. The menu kind of looks and feels like 2015, but it is actually quite well organized. Unfortunately, some settings like the video resolution or frame rates are dug very deep into the menu and you can't even put those in quick menu, so that is quite unpleasant. A6500 has a touchscreen, but it unfortunately doesn't work in menu, which is a shame, and unlike A7 Mark III, there is no My menu in A6500, so that is definitely a weakness. In June 2016, I have made a video about 7 weaknesses of A6500 and how to fix them. And over the year of using the A6500, I found 2 of those weaknesses to be critical. The first one is the screen. It is usable outdoors for stills if you set it to sunny weather, but it dims significantly if you switch to 4K video mode, and in that mode the screen is completely unusable. I use the matte foil on the display, which cuts the reflections, but the brightness is just not sufficient. That is one of the reasons why I will get Atomos Ninja 5 once it is available, so review of that will also be on this channel. The viewfinder is fortunately usable outdoors, and it is pretty good viewfinder with 2.36 million dots resolution, 0.74 times magnification, although by today's standards I would say that it is kind of average. The second critical weakness of A6500 in my opinion is the rolling shutter in 4K video. Rolling shutter creates a very unpleasant jello effect in video when the camera is moving. It is caused by the shortage of processing power because the camera can't read whole sensor at once whilst it is shooting 6K video and downsampling it to 4K. It can be completely fixed in Premiere Pro by applying rolling shutter repair effect, but the problem is that the exporting time of the video with this effect applied takes as much as 10 times longer than the exporting without it, so keep that in mind. In usual situations it is not that terrible, and the in-body image stabilization or stabilized lens helps with the rolling shutter a lot. Regarding the overheating, some users report that they have overheating issues. I can only speak from my experience, and I have personally used the camera in temperatures about 35 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and I have never even seen the overheating indicator, so personally I haven't had any overheating issues at all. The battery life on A6500 is not great, but it is the price for the portability. The battery is physically small, so it doesn't last very long. For me personally, that is not that big of a deal because how I use the camera. I don't mind changing the batteries, and as I have said, the batteries are physically small, so carrying them is easy as well. If you need long battery life, you can use dummy battery and power the camera by big Sony batteries for camcorders, or use a power bank. The charging options for A6500 are fortunately very good. It can be charged through USB. I also recommend getting USB dual charger. My whole charging setup is shown in my 10 great accessories for A6500 Part 2 video. I will leave a link to that in the description. When I bought the A6500, the lens selection was quite poor, I have to say. Since then, some very useful lenses for APS-C E-mount were introduced, most notably Sigma 16mm f1.4, which is probably my most favorite lens for Sony A6500 because of the sharpness, wide aperture, fast and silent autofocus, and so on. It is even weather sealed, which is very rare with Sony's APS-C lenses. Sony 18-135mm f3.5 to 5.6 OSS can be a good choice for those who only want to use one all-round lens and maybe some prime lenses for special occasions. I haven't tested it, but the reviews are quite positive so far. Using adapted lenses is also a valid option. There is of course the Sigma 18-35mm f1.8. That kind of gives you full frame results on APS-C. Optically it is excellent. With Sigma MC11 adapter it has basically full functionality. The ergonomics of this lens with adapter on A6500 is not very good though, so if you intend to carry it around, keep that in mind. The autofocus is also quite loud, but the performance in terms of optics is excellent. Here I also have to mention the 16-50mm kit lens, which is actually one of my most favorite lenses that I use with A6500 because of the size. If you stop it down to about f5.6 or f8, the image quality is actually very decent. I have used it on my trip in Bali last year, and I was quite pleased with the pictures that I managed to get with this lens. It is also stabilized, it does have power zoom for smooth zoom in, the autofocus is very fast and completely silent. Also, you can use clear image zoom seamlessly with the power zoom, so when you get to 50mm, it will start cropping the sensor to give you an effective 100mm focal length in video, so that is great. And overall, for situations where the portability and size is more important than super high image quality, the kit lens is definitely a great thing to have. A6500 is kind of two-in-one package because you can also build a rig around it and you can use it for serious work, which is what I intend to do. Here I mean building the rig, not the serious work. So I have ordered a cage from Small Rig with some accessories. I will also get the Atomos Ninja 5 and I will put together some good audio setup, and that is actually how I intend to use it as B camera for my new channel about lifestyle, traveling and stuff like that. The other way how I intend to use the camera is kind of like advanced GoPro, which is why I intend to get Laowa 9mm f2.8 lens for ultra wide angle shots. And the third way I intend to use A6500 is as the point and shoot camera with the kit lens instead of something like Sony RX100 Mark V. So to sum up, Sony A6500 is a very good APS-C camera that can provide great image quality and excellent autofocus in both stills and video in a very small package. It has some more or less significant weaknesses like the screen brightness while shooting 4K video, rolling shutter in 4K video, or battery life, although these weaknesses are mostly priced for having so much features in such small package. One of the most significant strengths of A6500 is also the versatility and how you can use it as a compact point and shoot camera or build a rig around it to use it for professional production. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope that you liked this video and that you have found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you'd like to ask anything or share your opinion, please do so in the comment section, and see you next time.